Man, self-confidence in sports is a tough thing. It's a complex subject. It's a difficult thing to get, and it's an easy thing to lose. And if you're watching this video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I want to share with you just in a couple of minutes here, one of the biggest factors of confidence in sports. And I want you to think back to when you were a kid, when you started playing your sport or you started playing different sports. Oftentimes when we're a kid and we perform really well, we do really well, we're just out on the field having fun. That's not what this video is about. It's not just to say, oh, you gotta have fun and that's what self-confidence is. That's not what I'm talking about. Think back to when you were a kid and you were just on the field, you were on the court, you were on the mat, wherever you're playing at, and you perform well, but there was no pressure, there was no expectations, there were no standards. There were no standards from yourself. There were no standards from your parents. There were no standards from your coaches. Now, obviously, they expected you to go out and to enjoy the game and be respectful and enjoy yourself and be a good teammate and all of that good stuff. But as far as performance goes, there was no expectation. There was no standard of how you were supposed to perform. You were young, you were just starting to get into the sport. You were learning the ins and outs, you were learning what the sport's all about, you were learning about yourself. But there were no standards, especially from yourself. I'm outside here. Look at this, man. I'm so damn white. It looks like I got a white t-shirt on. I definitely need to get some sun. But the standards are a major component, a major factor in your self-confidence in sports. Think about this for a second. You probably have teammates right now or people that you train with right now that don't hold themselves to a very high standard, but they go out and they just seem to play effortlessly. They seem to play with a sense of ease. Maybe you've had these teammates in the past. You know, this happens a lot of times in school sports, high school, collegiate sports, where all of a sudden a senior, they get to their final year and it's like a completely different player when they step out on the field as opposed to their junior, sophomore, freshman year, because their expectations, their standards change. They're not necessarily expecting to go play at the next level so they can play more freely. Their standards have lessened. And it's almost the mindset where I'm just going to go out and play and have fun. But it's not, obviously going out and playing and having fun is a part of it. But the more critical part of it is your standards. See, what oftentimes happens to athletes, happens to us, is that we hold ourselves to such a high standard and we don't perform well enough in our own mind. We don't execute well enough in our own mind. We don't perform well enough. We think we don't perform well enough for our coaches. We think we don't perform well enough for our coaches, for our teammates, for our parents, for the fans, so on and so forth. We think we don't perform well enough to win, to dominate at the level that we want to win at. So all of a sudden our confidence goes down because we're not performing up to our standards. Now, am I telling you to lower your standards so that your performance matches your standards? No, not by any means. What I'm sharing with you is your standards and your level of performance directly affect one another. So we have to set expectations. We have to set standards that are high. Yes, I'm telling you, we need to think big. We need to think bigger than most of us think. Most of us, you know, we think very small. We think very tiny. We think we aren't capable of so many things. But we need to match up our standards. And even when we don't meet our standards, we have to have the mindset. We have to have the shift. We have to have the adjustment in our own minds, in our own thought processes, in our own evaluation to say, even though I didn't perform up to my standards, I can see where the gap is. I can see where I performed and I can see where my standards are. And the key, here's the key to this whole damn video. The key is evaluating that gap between our standards and our performance, removing the emotion from it. That's the key. Removing the emotion from the gap between our performance and our standards so that we can realistically evaluate that gap. But too often, this happens. Over 80% of athletes are going to evaluate it with some sort of emotional attachment. Guilt, anger, fear, shame, frustration, disappointment, all of, anything that comes to the top of your mind that you experience in your sport is what's holding you back from realistically seeing the gap between your performance and your expectations and evaluating that area in between. If you can just unhook the emotions from it and realistically judge what you did well, what you need to improve on, what you would do differently. And here's the most difficult part of this is that we say that we're not being emotional. We say that we're not letting our emotions affect anything that we do. We say to ourselves, we tell ourselves over and over again that we aren't emotional. But in reality, we make decisions most of the time based on emotion, based on a feeling. Because that's the thing that most people are searching for, is that feeling. But the key for you guys, I challenge you guys, try to remove the emotion. Understand that a major factor of your confidence in your sport comes from matching your standards to your actual performance. And if you want to build, if you want to gain, if you want to enrich your confidence, specifically in your sport, you've got to learn how to realistically, without emotion, removing the emotion, realistically judge performance and standard and bridging that gap. This is not, let me repeat, this is not telling you to lower your standards or to set standards that are, completely out of reach. That's what this video is not about. That this video is about that gap, which affects your confidence, a major factor in your confidence. So try it out. Start making that judgment, start making that evaluation. And if you find it useful, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And let me know what you want to see on the next video. Let me know what you're struggling with. Let me know what you're doing well. Put it in the comments down below. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.